The cry in the dark. The galaxy was wide, cold, and filled with countless voices, but in that endless sea, one voice sounded weaker than all the others. It was the voice of a mother, broken by hunger and pain. Please. Help me. I have not eaten in 15 days. Her words drifted into the void, carried by broken signals from her damaged ship. No one answered. Ships passed, stations listened, but they turned the signal away. To them, her voice was nothing, just another cry from the endless dark, but to one human, that voice was different. He was not the strongest pilot, not the richest traveler, not a soldier with medals. He was just an ordinary human moving through the stars. Yet when he heard the weak call, his heart stopped. Something inside him whispered that this was real. This was not a trick, not a trap, but a voice of true pain. The human leaned closer to his console, replaying the signal again and again. Each time, the alien mother's voice cracked with desperation. Her tone carried the sound of someone who had already lost everything but was still begging for life. Please, my children, they are hungry. We cannot last another day. The human closed his eyes, trying to block the sound. But it returned, louder in his mind. How many others had heard this and ignored it? How many had turned away, telling themselves it was not their problem? He tried to think of reasons not to act. He thought of the dangers, the warnings, the stories of traps. The galaxy was full of lies. Pirates often used fake distress calls to lure in victims. Everyone knew this, and yet this did not feel fake. The human whispered to himself, "Why do I care? She is not even human." But deep inside, he already knew the answer, because hunger, suffering, and a mother's cry, those things were the same in every world. Still, fear battled inside him. He was one ship alone in a dangerous sector. If it was a trap, he might not return. His fuel was limited, his weapons small. He could ignore the voice, turn his ship away, and continue his safe journey. But the human could not forget the sound of her plea. He played the signal one more time. This time he noticed something else. In the background of her broken words, he heard the faint sound of children crying, thin voices weak from hunger. That was the moment his doubt began to break. He remembered his own childhood, memories of his mother's arms, memories of nights when food was short, but love was strong. He remembered the promise he made long ago, to never turn away from someone who truly needed help. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the stars outside. A single thought burned in his mind. If I don't help, then who will? The human looked at the coordinates in the signal. They pointed toward a region of space no one liked to enter, a dead zone filled with wreckage and silence. Many ships avoided it, saying it was cursed. Still, that was where the voice came from. He took a deep breath. All right, I'll go. With a single command, his ship changed course. The engines roared to life, pushing him toward the unknown. The journey was not easy. Shadows surrounded his small vessel. The stars here seemed dimmer, colder, as if the void itself did not want life to exist. Wreckage drifted slowly past his windows. Old ships, forgotten travelers, all lost to time. Every part of him screamed to turn back. But the memory of the alien mother's voice kept him moving forward. Hours passed and the signal grew weaker. He adjusted his scanners, hunting for the source. His eyes were heavy, but his mind stayed sharp. Suspense filled the air. Would he find her? Or would he only find danger waiting in the dark? Finally, his ship picked up a faint image, a broken vessel drifting with no power. The hull was cracked. Lights flickered weakly. It looked more like a grave than a ship. The human's heart raced. He activated his comms and sent a reply. I heard your call. I am here. For a long moment there was only silence. The static of the void pressed against his ears. Then slowly, a weak voice returned. You came? The human swallowed hard. He did not know what to say. But the fear in her voice was real. Her surprise was real. No one else had answered her, only him. And in that instant, he knew. This was no trap. This was a real mother, a real family, dying in the dark, His journey had only just begun. But already, he understood one thing. His life was about to change forever. The human's decision. The human sat in his pilot seat, staring at the broken ship floating in the distance. His hands trembled slightly on the controls. The voice of the alien, Mother, still echoed in his ears, weak and desperate. He had found her, but finding her was not the same as saving her. The galaxy was dangerous. He knew this better than anyone. People were cruel, ships were lost, and good intentions often ended in death. A voice in his mind whispered, "Turn back before it's too late." But another voice, softer yet stronger, answered, "If you leave her, she will die." He thought of the warnings from others. Many had said, "Don't trust strange signals, they are traps. Pirates pretend to be weak, then attack when you get close." That was true. It had happened. Before, many humans had died because of compassion. Still, something about her cry was different. The human replayed the last words he heard. Her voice was weak, but behind it he could hear the faint sobs of children. That sound cut through every fear, every doubt. He leaned forward, eyes locked on the drifting ship. What if it's real? What if she really hasn't eaten for 15 days? What if her children are dying right now? The thought burned in his chest like fire. He tried to imagine what it must feel like. A mother watching her children starve, powerless to help. He imagined her holding them close, whispering empty promises just to give them hope. And now, after all that suffering, she still had the strength to send out a plea. That was not weakness. That was courage. The human closed his eyes for a moment. His ship hummed quietly around him. Outside, the stars were cold and silent, waiting for his decision. He whispered to himself, "Everyone else ignored her. But if I ignore her too, then what makes me different from them?" Slowly, he tightened his grip on the controls. His fear did not vanish, but he pushed it down. "All right," he said softly. "I will try." The human powered up his scanners, searching for life signs inside the broken vessel. The readings were faint, weak, almost gone. He frowned, his heart racing. She's barely holding on. He tried to hail the ship again. "This is a human vessel. I heard your call. I am coming closer." For a long moment, there was only static. Then a reply came softer than a whisper. You would help us?" The human's chest tightened at those words. The way she asked, it was not just a question. It was disbelief, as if kindness was something rare, something she had forgotten existed. "Yes." The human answered firmly. "Hold on, I'm coming." But as he prepared to dock, another thought hit him like a cold blade. What if someone is watching? He checked his radar, scanning the area. For now, the sector was empty, but he knew how quickly that could change. If pirates were nearby, they would see his ship slow down. They would smell weakness. Still, the human did not stop. Fear was there. Yes. But something stronger moved his hands now. It was not logic, not safety. It was something else. Something human. He set his course straight toward the broken vessel. His ship crept closer, lights flashing across the alien hull. The closer he got, the more damage he saw. Entire sections of the ship were torn apart. The engines were cold, the oxygen levels inside were dangerously low. He swallowed hard. If I had come any later, they would already be dead. Inside the alien ship, the mother watched her screen with fading eyes. She saw the small human vessel approaching. For a moment, she thought it was a dream. No one had come before. No one had answered her. Tears welled. In her eyes, she whispered to her children, "Someone is coming. Someone finally heard us." The children were too weak to answer, but their small eyes opened, a flicker of hope returning. Back in the human ship, doubt still clawed at him. He could hear his old mentor's voice in his mind. "Compassion will kill you in this galaxy, boy. You can't save everyone." Maybe that was true, but as he looked at the broken vessel ahead, he knew he could save someone. And maybe that was enough. The human's voice grew firm as he spoke to himself. "I don't care if it's foolish. I don't care if it's dangerous, no one should starve in the dark. His decision was made, unshakable now. He reached for the docking controls. His ship locked onto the alien vessel. The metal groaned as the two ships connected. The human stood, his breath heavy. His hand hovered over the door release. Behind that door was either salvation or death, either a family in need, or a trap waiting to kill him. He did not know, and yet. He pressed the button. With a hiss of air, the doors began to slide open. The human's heart pounded. His fate and theirs would be decided in the next breath. The first encounter. The door hissed open and silence filled the narrow passage between the two ships. Cold air drifted through, carrying the scent of dust, metal, and something faintly bitter. The human paused at the threshold, every sense alert, his heart beat fast. Is this a trap? Or is there really someone waiting? He stepped inside the alien vessel. His boots echoed softly on the broken floor panels. The ship was dark, lit only by flickering emergency lights that painted the walls in red shadows. Wires hung loose like dead vines, and the silence was heavy. Too heavy. The human tightened his grip on the small light in his hand. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing empty corridors and shattered screens. It looked like a graveyard. Then, he heard it. A faint sound like breathing, weak and shallow, almost lost in the cold air. He followed it, step by step. His light fell on a half-open door ahead, scratched metal, dense from desperate hands trying to push it open. He pressed against it. The door screeched and slowly revealed the room inside, and there they were. The alien mother sat against the wall, her body frail, her skin pale with hunger, her arms wrapped around two small children who clung to her weakly. Their eyes were hollow, their faces thin. They looked like they had not eaten in days. For a moment the human froze. He had imagined this moment. But the reality hit harder than any dream. They were not monsters. They were not enemies. They were just a family, dying slowly in the dark. The alien mother lifted her head. Her eyes met his, wide and trembling. She could barely speak. Her voice cracked as she whispered, You came." The human swallowed hard, his throat dry. He had faced storms, battles, and dangers before, but nothing felt as heavy as those 3 words. "Yes," he said softly. "I came." The children stared at him with quiet fear. They had never seen a human before. To them, he was strange. Different skin, different eyes, a stranger from another world. But behind their fear was something else. Hope, fragile and small but alive. The human slowly knelt, lowering his light so it would not blind them. From his pack, he pulled out a small food ration. He opened it carefully and held it out. At first, the alien mother shook her head. "No, my children first." Her hands trembled as she pushed the food toward them. The children sniffed at it, their tiny hands shaking. Then, slowly, they ate, biting into the food as tears rolled down their faces. It was not much, but for them it was everything. The human watched, his chest heavy. He had seen hunger before, he had known hardship, but this was beyond words. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Why? Why would you help us?" The human looked at her. His answer came simple and true. "Because you asked." For a brief moment there was silence, but it was not the silence of death anymore. It was the silence of life. Fragile, but breathing. The alien mother closed her eyes, pressing her forehead against her children. She whispered something in her own tongue, words of relief and prayer. But the human's instincts did not rest. His eyes scanned the broken walls, the cracks in the ceiling. The ship was falling apart. The oxygen levels were dropping faster than he expected. If he stayed too long, all of them could die. He stood quickly. "We can't stay here. Your ship won't last another hour." The mother looked at him with fear. But we have nowhere to go." "You have me now," the human said firmly. "I'll take you to safety." But just as he reached for his comms, a new sound rattled through the hull. Bang, clang, thud, metal striking metal, sharp and distant. The human froze. His instinct screamed. That was not the sound of the ship breaking, that was something else. The alien mother's eyes widened. She whispered, "They found us." The children clung tighter to her, trembling. The human's jaw tightened. "Who?" she answered with fear in her voice. "The scavengers. They wanted us dead. They will not let us leave." The human felt the cold bite of danger crawl up his spine. He looked toward the shadows of the corridor. He could almost feel eyes watching, waiting. It was no longer just about saving them from hunger. Now he had walked into a storm of enemies. He looked back at the alien mother and her children, his voice steady. "Then they'll have to go through me first." Feeding hope. The sound of metal striking against the hull still echoed faintly through the alien vessel, but inside the broken chamber, a small miracle was unfolding. The alien children chewed slowly, their tiny mouths trembling with each bite. The food ration was simple, dry and plain, but to them, it tasted like life itself. Their hollow eyes lit with a fragile spark, and their weak fingers clung tightly to the meal, as if it might vanish if they let go. The human watched in silence. His breath was heavy, his body tense from the warning sounds outside, but his eyes softened as he looked at them. He had seen soldiers eat after battles. He had seen survivors cling to scraps. But this was different. This was pure survival. The mother, frail and shaking, refused to eat. She held her children close, tears streaming down her face as she whispered softly in her own tongue. The words were foreign, but the meaning was clear. A prayer, a thank you, a desperate promise. To her little ones, the human reached into his pack again, pulling out another ration. He tore it open and held it out. His voice was steady but gentle. "You need strength too. If you collapse, who will protect them?" The mother stared at him. Her eyes filled with disbelief. She hesitated, her lips trembling. Why would a human give food to me? My kind, we were your enemy once." The human met her gaze firmly. "Maybe once, but not today. Today you're just a mother trying to save her children, that's all I see." Her hands shook as she took the food, biting carefully as if she was afraid it would be poisoned. But when the taste reached her tongue, she let out a soft sob. It had been so long since she had eaten anything real. For a brief moment, hope warmed the cold air of the broken ship. The children leaned into their mother, whispering weakly. Their voices were faint, but the human could feel it. They were alive. But he did not relax. His ears stayed sharp. His hand never strayed far from his weapon. He knew they were not safe yet. He crouched down, his voice low. "Listen to me. Your ship is dying, the oxygen is running out, and scavengers are circling. If you stay here, you'll all die. Come with me." The mother looked around her ruined vessel, her eyes full of sorrow. This had been her home, her last shield against the void. Now it was nothing but a tomb. She tightened her hold on her children and nodded weakly. "We will come." The human offered his hand. She looked at it for a long moment, then slowly placed her trembling fingers in his. Her touch was cold, fragile, like glass ready to shatter, but the grip was strong enough to tell him she wanted to live. They moved through the dark corridor, the human leading the way. His light beam cut across shadows. Every sound made his heart pound harder. Was it the ship's metal shifting, or footsteps following them? Halfway through, one of the children coughed violently. The human stopped and crouched, pulling a small water pack from his belt. He held it out. "Here, drink." The child's eyes widened, but the mother nodded. The little one sipped slowly, the water glistening on his cracked lips. His breathing eased. His sister clutched his hand, relief softening her weak face. The human stood again, but his thoughts were dark. They are so weak, too weak to run. If the scavengers come now, how will I protect them? Still, he pushed forward, step by step. At last, they reached the connecting hatch to his ship. The human opened the door, fresh oxygen rushing through. The children gasped at the clean air, their eyes wide. The mother looked around in awe. So much light, so clean. It's not much, the human said. But it's safe. He guided them inside, helping the children into the small cabin. For the first time in days, they lay on soft seats instead of cold metal. Their breathing eased, their bodies less tense. The human gave them more food, smaller pieces this time, careful not to overwhelm their starved bodies. They ate slowly, but with desperate hunger. The mother's voice cracked as she whispered, "You saved us. You gave us what no one else would." The human shook his head. "I only did what anyone should have done." But he knew the truth. No one else had done it. Only him. For a moment, there was peace inside the cabin. The children slowly drifted into exhausted sleep. The mother's eyes softened as she watched them. A tiny smile flickered on her lips. Fragile, but real. But outside, the peace was breaking. The radar on the human's console began to beep. A warning signal, blinking red. He rushed to the controls, scanning the screen. His stomach tightened. 3 ships moving fast, heading straight. Toward them, the scavengers had arrived. The human's hand curled into a fist. He looked back at the mother and her children, asleep and helpless. His voice dropped to a whisper, filled with iron. "You're safe now. I won't let them take that away." The danger. The radar beeped again, louder, sharper, like a heartbeat pounding in the silence. 3 ships, fast and closing. The human's eyes narrowed at the red dots crawling across the screen. Scavenger vessels. He knew their kind. Hyenas, of the void feeding on the weak. They were not soldiers, but killers who hid in the shadows. They lived off fear, off broken ships like the one he had just rescued the family from. He whispered to himself. So it was true. They were waiting. Behind him, the alien mother stirred, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. She saw the red lights flashing on his console and her face paled. "They found us," she whispered, voice trembling. "They will not stop until we are dead." The human glanced at her, then at the 2 children still sleeping peacefully. For a moment, he felt the weight of the entire galaxy pressing on his shoulders. They had no weapons, no strength, no hope. Except him. He straightened, his back. "They'll have to go through me first." The scavenger ships began sending signals, harsh voices filling the comms. "Human vessel, step away from the aliens, hand them over, and we may let you live." The human's jaw tightened. He pressed the comms button and answered, his voice steady, cold. "Not happening." There was a long pause, then cruel laughter spilled through the speakers. "A human protecting them? You must be mad. Do you know what you're risking? Do you know who they are?" The human cut the channel without replying. He didn't care about their words, he only cared about keeping his promise. He checked his weapons system. It was basic. 1 plasma cannon, limited shields. Nothing compared to 3 scavenger ships. His odds were terrible, but retreat was impossible. If he ran, the scavengers would catch the alien family again, and this time no one would come to help. He looked at the mother. "Stay here. Keep the children safe." She shook her head weakly. "You cannot fight them all. They will kill you." The human managed a small smile. "Maybe. But I'd rather die fighting than live knowing I left you to them." Her eyes filled with tears. She reached for his arm, but he had already turned back to the controls. The scavenger ships drew closer, their dark hulls glinting like sharp teeth in the starlight. They spread out, trying to trap him. The human took a deep breath. "All right, let's see if you like a fight." He gripped the controls and pushed his ship into motion. The engines roared. The cabin shook. The children stirred in their sleep, but did not wake. The first scavenger ship fired. A bolt of plasma cut across the void. The human swerved, the shot missing by inches. The alarms blared as his shields dropped to 70%. He gritted his teeth. 1 hit and already this bad. This will be close. Inside the cabin, the mother held her children tight, whispering prayers. Every shake of the ship made her flinch. Every sound of weapons made her heart race. But she kept her eyes on the human's back, his shoulders firm, his hands steady. For the first time in her life, she saw a human not as an enemy, but as a shield. The human fired back. His plasma cannon lit the darkness. The shot struck one scavenger ship's wing, sparks flying. The vessel spun for a moment but recovered, circling back like a predator. The second ship moved in from the side, launching grapplers. The human ship jolted as the claws dug into the hull. He cursed under his breath, slammed the thrusters, and rolled. Metal screeched as the grapplers tore free. The scavenger spun away, pieces of its hull trailing fire. But then the third ship came from behind, targeting his engines. The humans. Eyes darted across the screens, his heart pounded. They're trying to cripple me. He pushed the engines harder, diving toward the wreckage field below. Broken ships floated like ghosts, sharp edges and metal fragments drifting aimlessly. It was dangerous, but he had no choice. The scavengers followed, firing into the debris, but the humans' smaller ship weaved through the wreckage, slipping between twisted beams and shattered hulls. The bigger scavenger ships struggled. Their shots hit metal husks instead of him. For a moment he bought himself time, but time would not last forever. His fuel was dropping. His shields flickered weakly. The scavengers were regrouping outside the wreckage field, circling like vultures. The human tightened his grip on the controls, sweat dripping down his forehead. He whispered, "If I can't outgun them, I'll have to outthink them." He looked at the wreckage drifting all around. A dangerous idea began to form. He turned his ship sharply, hiding behind the shell of an old battleship. His sensors dimmed. His ship powered down. To the scavengers outside, it looked like he had vanished. The mother gasped softly, "What are you doing?" The human kept his voice low, calm, waiting, watching, and then striking. He stared at the radar, 3 red dots circling, searching for him. His chance was coming, and when it did, he would make them regret ever hunting a starving mother and her children. The battle for mercy. The human's ship floated in silence behind the wreckage of a dead battleship. Engines cooled, lights dimmed. He had made his vessel look like another, ghost drifting in the graveyard. On his radar, the 3 scavenger ships circled slowly, searching. Their signals crackled across the comms. "He's hiding. The fool thinks he can run from us." Another voice laughed, sharp and cruel. "When we find him, we'll tear the aliens apart in front of him." The human's hands tightened on the controls. His jaw clenched. His ship was weaker, smaller, but his mind sharpened. He whispered, "You'll never touch them." He waited, breathing slowly. Every second stretched long. The scavenger ships moved closer, scanning, creeping into the wreckage field. And then, his moment came. The lead scavenger ship passed the edge of the ruined battleship, its engines exposed for a heartbeat. The human's eyes flared. His finger slammed the trigger. Boom! A blast of plasma tore through the void, slamming straight into the scavenger's rear. Fire erupted across its hull. The ship lurched violently, alarms blaring inside. The other 2 scavenger ships roared to life, firing wildly into the wreckage. The graveyard lit up with deadly light. Metal fragments exploded around the human's vessel, but he kept moving, weaving through the wrecks like a hunter. Inside his cabin, the alien mother clutched her children tightly. Every shake of the ship made her heart freeze, yet her eyes stayed on the human. His face was hard, focused, his hands steady even as chaos burned outside. She whispered, "Why risk your life for us?" He did not look back. His voice was low, firm. "Because mercy is worth fighting for." The second scavenger came rushing from the left, weapons blazing. The human pulled hard on the controls, his ship twisting sideways. The blasts scorched past him, but one hit clipped his shields. The alarm screamed, "Shields at 40%. He cursed under his breath, sweat on his brow, but he did not stop. He spun his ship behind a shattered cruiser, then darted out, firing 2 quick shots. One hit the scavenger's wing, tearing through metal. The ship spiraled, smoke trailing behind it. The scavengers screamed across comms, "Kill him! Tear him apart!" The third ship came from above, diving fast, trying to pin him in the wreckage. The human's eyes flicked across his screen. His mind raced. He saw a massive piece of wreckage, a fuel tank drifting slowly. "Perfect," he muttered. He swerved, luring the scavenger closer, weaving around the floating tank. At the last moment, he fired a single shot. directly into the tank. The explosion was massive, a burst of fire and metal. The shockwave slammed into both ships. The scavenger spun out, alarm screaming. The human's ship rattled hard, but he held control. When the smoke cleared, one scavenger was gone, torn apart. Another limped, sparks flying, but the fight wasn't over. The lead scavenger, still burning from his first strike, came charging back, furious. It rammed into the human's ship, claws digging into the hull. The cabin shook violently. The children woke, crying in terror. The mother screamed, "They are boarding us." The human's eyes darkened. He grabbed his sidearm, standing from his seat. "Stay with them," he told the mother, his voice steady, his steps heavy with resolve. The airlock hissed as the scavengers forced their way in. Boots clanged against the floor. Rough voices echoed through the corridor. "Found him. Kill the human and drag the aliens out." The human stepped into the corridor, weapon raised. His heart pounded, but his eyes were steel. The scavengers rounded the corner. Ugly, armored, carrying blades and rifles. For a moment, time froze. Then the human fired. Crack, crack, crack. 3 fell before they could even aim. The rest roared in anger, charging. The corridor became a storm of light and sound. The human fought with everything he had. Each shot precise, each movement fueled by iron will. He took hits, his armor scorching, pain burning his side, but he never fell. Because behind him were 2 children, a mother, and a promise he would not break. One scavenger managed to get close, blade raised. The human caught the strike with his arm, pain exploding, but he slammed his weapon point blank into the enemy's chest. Firing once, the scavenger dropped. The others hesitated now, fear flickering in their eyes. They had expected an easy kill. Instead, they faced a human who refused to fall. The human stood there, blood dripping, weapon still raised. His voice thundered in the narrow corridor. "If you want them, you'll have to walk over my body, and I swear, none of you will live long enough to try." The scavengers froze. Then slowly they began to retreat, dragging their wounded back. Their leader's voice snarled across comms, "This isn't over, human. We'll be back." The hatch slammed shut. Silence fell. The human staggered, leaning against the wall. His chest heaved with heavy breaths. He looked back. The alien mother was there, clutching her children, her eyes wide with shock and awe. She whispered, voice trembling, "You fought them for us." The human nodded, wiping blood from his face. "I told you mercy is worth fighting for." The children clung to their mother, tears streaming down their faces, but this time not from fear, this time from hope. And in that moment, though, battered and bleeding, the human stood taller than any warrior, for he had done what no one else would. He had given them a chance to live. A new beginning. The silence after the battle was heavy. Smoke lingered in the corridors. Sparks hissed from broken panels. The human leaned against the wall, his body aching, blood streaked across his side. Every breath was sharp, but his eyes still burned with fire. Behind him, the alien mother held her children close. Her hands trembled, not from fear this time, but from relief. She whispered softly in her own tongue, words of blessing, of thanks. The children pressed their faces against her, their tears warm. For the first time in 15 days, they were safe. The human staggered back into the cockpit. His ship's systems flickered, but they were alive. The scavengers had retreated, their threat still echoing in the dark. But for now, the family was free. He collapsed into the pilot's seat, wiping sweat from his brow. His chest rose and fell like heavy waves. Yet when he turned, he saw the mother staring at him, her eyes wide with something he had never seen before. "Trust. You bled for us," she whispered, her voice soft and broken. "No one has ever done that. Not for my kind." The human smiled faintly, though pain etched his face. "Then it's time someone did." As the ship drifted away from the wreckage field, the stars opened before them, endless and bright. The mother's children slowly fell asleep again, their breathing soft. For the first time in days, their faces looked peaceful. The human set a course toward the nearest safe station. His fuel was low, his shields nearly gone, but he would make it. He had to. The mother sat beside him, her hands folded tightly. She kept glancing at him as if afraid he might vanish. Her voice was quiet. Why did you risk so much? We were strangers. We were nothing to you. The human looked out at the stars, his voice steady. Because you asked for help, and no one else answered. If I turned away, then what kind of human would I be? She lowered her head, her eyes wet with tears. Then humanity is greater than I was told. When they arrived at the station, whispers spread quickly. Dock workers stared as the human stepped out, carrying the frail children in his arms. The alien mother followed, weak but walking. Her eyes filled with gratitude. People gasped. Some whispered in disbelief. A human saved them? Others frowned, thinking it was madness, but word traveled fast, faster than light. Within hours, the story was told and retold. A starving alien mother. A human who risked everything to save her. Some called him foolish, but many called him brave, and slowly across the stars the tale became something larger than one man. Days passed, the mother and her children recovered. They ate, they slept, and life returned to their eyes. Every time she looked at the human, she felt her chest tighten, not with fear but with awe. One evening, as the stars glimmered outside the station's windows, she spoke again. I thought all humans were cold, violent, selfish. But you showed me something else. You showed me that your kind carries hearts strong enough to fight for mercy. The human chuckled softly, shaking his head. Not all humans are like me. Some would have ignored your call. Some would have taken advantage of it. But I hope my people remember that we can choose compassion. She bowed her head. I will never forget, and neither will my children. They will grow knowing that when the galaxy turned its back, one human stood for us. And indeed, the story did not die. It spread to other worlds, carried by traders, travelers, and whispers in the dark. On one planet, they said, a human saved an alien mother from death. On another, they said, humans fight not only with weapons, but with mercy. The scavengers swore revenge. But even their threats only gave the legend more weight. Everywhere the tale traveled, it changed the way others looked at humans. Some feared them less, some respected them more. And some began to wonder if humanity's true strength was not just in fire and war, but in heart. The human stood alone one night, watching the stars. His body still carried scars from the battle, but he felt lighter somehow. He thought of the mother and her children alive because he had refused to ignore their cry, and he whispered to himself, maybe this galaxy still has hope. Behind him, the alien mother stepped forward, her voice soft but steady. Because of you, my children, live because of you. I still believe in tomorrow, whatever happens next. You will always be part of our family. The human turned, surprised, but her eyes were filled with truth. And in that moment, he realized something powerful. His choice had not only saved lives, it had built a bridge between worlds. From that day forward, whenever someone told the story, they ended it the same way. She was starving, her children near death, and when all others ignored her cry, a human listened. He fought for her, he bled for her, and he gave her hope. And that is why in the darkest corners of the galaxy they say mercy has a human heart.